everyone, it's Ryan from Ryan Plans. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do the browning swatches. Okay, let's get started. The two bottles that I've shown you are the Robert Oster's Cafe Crema, and this one is the Diamine's Ochre. These two are my top favorite of browning. So I have all of my bottles actually in my office, but I do keep this two in the bedroom desk because I use them so much. But anyway, before we do swatches, this is how I keep all of my brownings. This is not about half of them, but I only keep this one in here in the bedroom because in my office I have like the whole bottles, but the thing is they take up so much spaces and I just don't have enough space in my bedroom desk, even with the shelves and everything. So this is how I keep it. So this is actually like a lipstick organizer that you can get it from Amazon. It's just like a plastic, like acrylic sort of organizer. I think it's under $10 that you can get. And these are like a centrifuge sample like bottle. You can actually get it from gladepens.com. That's where I got it. I'm sure you can get it from other places as well, but that's where I got mine. And then I basically swatched the ink on top of it using like the label that has the center taken out, so it's like a ring style. I tried different kinds, but I think this one works the best. But this is how I use it, and if you see it up close, I don't know, can you see, does it show? Like there's like a clear label that I have written down all the names of and stuff. I don't think it really shows. Here, let me see if I can find maybe this one because it's lighter, maybe it could possibly. I use the clear label because the white one that I use for the label maker that I have, it peels off in plastic. So that's why I use the clear. So it's a little bit harder to see, but this is how I keep my brownings. I actually have one more of this along with the shimmerings, and that's how I usually fill up my ink. So I fill this one up and then ink up my pen from here. The advantage of that is that you don't contaminate your original bottle because your nib never touches. So if you don't clean your pen like with every fills, this is a pretty good way to keep your bottle sanitized and clean and everything away from any of the residues that you can get from the used pen. But yeah, if you clean your pen every single time, then you don't really have to do this. But I do this just because of the portability. So what we're gonna do is, I think we're gonna do the first two rows. We might do like few more on the third row, but I sort of organized it based on like the color. So it's going from darkest to the lightest. So we'll go with the darker ink today. So this is gonna be the dark brown inks series. So I'll put that right there. And let's swatch them now. Okay, I think this is our second page. I'm just going to write all the ink name with this because it just, I don't like all this. it smeared so much here that I think I'm just gonna write the name with the gel pen, and then we'll do the swatches actually with the real ink. I think we're gonna go from the right. So the first ink is Platinum's Cocky Black. This is one of the permanent brownings that's available. And what's special about this ink is that it really is like a cocky black color, but once it oxidizes, it turns to like really darker sort of, like not completely black, but like a brown black. So as you can see here, it's it sort of swatches a little bit lighter, but then it gets darker as it oxidizes. I do have document brown as well, but I do use this quite a lot. For the Platinum Cocky Black, I also want to mention that there's like a citrus black that's really popular, and there's also like a darker brown one than this one, which is called Sepia Black. But I chose the Cocky Black because I sort of like that greenish brown color. I don't think I have the sample. I don't think I made a sample file of that, but this is my Dia Trementis document brown. So, okay. So this is what the document brown looks like, you guys. In paper, if you're writing actually using like the nib, it's a bit too light for my liking when I write. So I don't mind lighter brown inks, but this one, I don't know, maybe because I expected to be, since it's a permanent, I want it to be more of like solid dark brown color, but it is fairly light, like as you can see, like compared to that. Whereas the cocky black, it looks really like light here, but once it oxidizes, it sort of becomes almost black, but not really, kind of. So that's why I prefer the cocky black over the document brown. This one sort of writes really, really light when you're using finer nib. Because I'm swatching with the brushes, yeah, I ditched the glass pen because I made so much mess last time. But so it does show a little more of like its truer color. But anyway, moving on, this is the Urban's Carob de Chypre. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but this is one of the Urban's shimmer brownings. And what I really like about this one, here, let me see. This one behaves really well inside the pen, and I think all Urban inks do. So look how pretty that is, you guys. And it actually has like a gold shimmer. So if you are like a shimmer girl or guy, this is like the perfect ink. I feel like this one behaves in any sort of ink really well. It's fairly wet, as you guys can see here, and the shimmer is just enough, but I haven't had any problems with it blocking the nib. And the next one is another shimmer inks. This one is Diamine's Cocoa Shimmer. I personally use this a lot more than Urban, not because of the quality, but this one has a little bit more thicker shimmer, in my opinion. So the shimmer, it has a little more shimmering effects compared to Urban. So I never had any problem like using Urban in expensive pens, but I don't use the Diamine one in like more like my sellers and stuff. And compared to the Carob de Chypre, the Cocoa Shimmer, this one is a little bit more of like a regular brown, like more of like a darker brown. So this one is like a reddish brown here. This one is more of like just pure brown, if you will. Like it doesn't have a lot of reddish tint to it. But yeah, those two are one my favorite shimmer inks. I do have a few other, like I have Robert Oster as well. We'll talk about more when we get to that ink later, but Robert Oster does have a lot bigger shimmers, and they clog off even on my stub nib. So mostly I use my shimmer inks in stub so that I can easily clean it and it doesn't like clog up the nib as much. But even so, like I did find some Robert Oster shimmers that clog up, so I don't really like the Robert Oster's shimmer. So these were three of my top used specialty browning. I should have done like the document brown here and then put this two shimmer on the underneath, but this is my darkest brown color I have, I believe. So this is the Robert Oster's Smokescreen. I think I overbought so much ink. So this, as you can see, this is sort of like a purplish brown, you guys. It's not like reddish, it's actually more like a purplish with like a gray hue to it. But it writes so black that it looks like very, very dark brown. I personally prefer warmer tone when it comes to like a brown color. But this one is a good alternative for anybody that wants to use brown color, but you've always used blacks and you're not comfortable going towards like colorful inks. This one could really work for you, especially if you like those like darker, like a purplish, grayish toned brown. So This is the Diamines Macassar. Now this one is the darkest brown inks from Diamine collection. As you guys can see, it's more of that brownish brown rather than like that purple brown you see from the smoke screen. And what's really good about Diamine, you guys, if you ever buy the Diamine ink from European distributor, they are really cheap, you guys. So if you are on a budget but you want to buy some bottles, and because Diamine actually sells like a smaller bottles like this one. So how big is this one? I think this is 30 mils. I believe so. I think this one is 30 mils, and then they also have bigger bottles like 80 mils. But because I bought so many of different bottles, I actually have every single brown inks from Diamine brand that I bought all of them in this smaller one, and they last quite a long time because I change up my ink so much. But yeah, it's like very cute small bottle. I think this was like only like $15 or less. No, maybe it was like $8. I don't know. If you want like a cool tone brown, like very dark brown, or Robert Oster smokescreen, Diamine's Macassar is a little bit more of like true brown, but it's very dark. Iroshizuku's Yamaguri. Iroshizuku is a Japanese brand, so they have one of the wettest, like very nice, well-behaved ink. So if you're looking for ink that flows really well in Japanese, like extra fine, this is probably the one you should go for. It's fairly comparable to Macassar, but I would say Yamaguri is like a tinge, like a very hairline lighter than Macassar. So very comparable. But it really behaves well in thin nib, so I really like that in like extra fine. The next one we're gonna do is another diamine. This is another dark brown, but as you guys can see, it's sort of are becoming a little more lighter as we go, because I am actually doing it from the darkest to the lightest. So I believe this one, this is not from their classic collections, but this was one of like their, it started out as like their limited edition, and then they I think they're still producing it on their blue collection or blue edition. So it has like a little special bottle. It's like a different bottle. And they only sell it in 50 mils, I believe. But it's a fairly good like dark brown, but that is not towards the black. Like this too. You see how like dark that is? This is like dark brown, but it's, you can definitely tell that it's like a brown color. So I love Diamine ink just because it behaves really well for the price. The next one is another Diamine. This one is called Chocolate Brown from Diamine collection. I do feel like the cracker is a little bit lighter than the chocolate brown, but they're very comparable. But I think Nutcracker has a bit more. Oh, I don't know if it'll show, but this one actually has that green sheen as it dries, you guys. Very interesting. It's been so long since I bought these bottles. I forgot which one has which kind of characteristics. So I'm sort of finding it as I go with you guys. But that's pretty cool. The Nutcracker actually has the like a green sheen to it. But once it dries, I'll go over every single page again and it's sort of like show you like um, as an overview at the end. So you guys know like how it looks when it dries as well. Yeah, the chocolate brown, it sort of does feel a little bit darker than the Nutcracker. The next one is Robert Oster Star Chocolate. The Robert Oster, I can tell that it's slightly drier than Diamine ink, but it did really portray that chocolate brown really well. So this too is darker than Nutcracker. I think I put this together because of the same name, but it should be like go on top of the Nutcracker. Next ink we are going to do, this is the Mont Blanc's Toffee Brown. I think I bought it specifically for my Mont Blanc pen. And as you guys can see, it's sort of in the diamine nutcracker league. There's nothing really that special about this ink, you guys. I mean, you can get pretty similar ink like that. It's similar to nutcracker. There are like more inks that's going to be very similar to this as we go on. I bought it just because I do have Mont Blanc pen, and I like to put Mont Blanc ink in my Mont Blanc pen because it's a special pen for me. It's the only pen that I use on a special occasion, sort of. So anyway, so that is the Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. The one we are going to do next is the Robert Oster's Golden Brown. As the name suggested, it is fairly dark brown ink, but it has that golden hue where the toffee brown was more of the reddish brown. This is one of my favorite dark brown ink because it really has a good shading. And you guys know I love good shading inks. So basically what it means is when you write a letter with the ink, like a good shading ink, inside that one letter, let's say it's S, like some part is going to be darker than the other, so it's going to look like you used like two different ink at the same time, sort of. And that's what I really like about the ink. So the shading inks are my favorite. And this one has like that true yellow toned, warm toned brown, but it's still really dark enough for writing. And so I really like the Robert Oster's Golden Brown. I use that quite a lot. And the funny thing is, whenever the weather gets cold, I think I prefer like a warmer tone, like a yellow toned brown. And whenever the summer hits, I go for more of a reddish brown. So my favorite has always changed depending on the seasons too. So it's really interesting how like your preference change based on the weather. Next one is the Robert Oster's chocolate pudding. I believe this was one of their like limited edition, but I think you can still buy it. So I'm going to put that in here. Now this is a very interesting ink, you guys. This is like a lighter version of the Robert Oster smoke screen. It's like kind of muted, like purplish brown. Robert Oster really like captured that. You know, when you look at a chocolate pudding, you know how it's not like a chocolate color. It does look like chocolate, but it has that like grayish tinge to it, and I think that's what he portrays. So it does write very. It's like a very interesting dark brown color, in my opinion. Another Robert Oster ink. I personally really like Robert Oster, so I have like all of his browns, and he has some of the most color range when it comes to brown, along with diamine. That's why I have a lot of their inks, because they have so much good brown inks range. So this was the Robert Oster's chocolate, and it's very reddish brown, you guys. So as you guys can see, it has a lot of that red hues to it, and it's really pretty. I love to use this during the summertime. Go back to diamine. This is the triple chocolate. I believe this one is also the blue collections. So we are sort of moving from very dark to like dark brown, I would say. And it has a bit of a reddish tone, but it also has the warmer yellow tone as well. So I think it's like a good half and half mix of reddish and yellow toned brown that's leaning a little more towards dark. Next one is Robert Oster's Aussie Brown. I love the shade. It does have a little bit of shading, but not as much as I would like, because Robert Oster ink is known for its shading ability. So when I actually tested this ink out, I was a little bit disappointed after like it got dried. It just didn't have that enough shading as I would have liked to see in the Robert Oster ink. So it's my least used. The one thing I do want to mention is that it's a very beautiful true brown color. Okay, let's do four more, a little more, because I think this should be in the dark brown. The next one is the Graphon 5. Okay, it's GVFC. It's a Graph One Fiber Castels. This one is their hazelnut brown. Now, I've never tested any of their ink until I tried this ink. Hazelnut is like my favorite. I love to have hazelnut syrup in my coffee and everything. So when I saw that name, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have this, right? So it's very reddish brown. It's, I would say it's kind of like a medium to dark brown, like compared to like the previous pages. Yeah, it's going to dry a little bit lighter than the previous page, but it's a fairly nice brown. But the color wise, I mean, if you're just looking at the color, like, I don't see the point of purchasing like this expensive ink when there are so many nice ink with like affordable options are available. But the bottles are really nice. It does behave fairly well in the pen. Next one, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include this in the video or not, but I am going to because this is one of my favorite ink as well. This is the Iroshizuku's Tsukushi, but I don't think they're making this ink color anymore. I know that they have Yamaguri, but I haven't seen this color in the store anywhere. I do have a 50 ml bottle, so I'm probably not gonna run out in my life because I have so much ink. But yeah, if you are like, just trying out to see like which one you want to get, I mean, this is like a really good medium sort of brown that is fairly wet. So I mean, if you want to use like Japanese nib, but you want like a regular, like not dark brown, but if you want like a medium to dark brown, this is like a really good color for it. But I don't think they are selling it anymore. It's a shame though. You guys, if you have never tried brownings, try like to get like a sample of brownings and try it in your journals and stuff. One thing I did find is that not only does it look like antique and like kind of like old looking, that like it looks like, when you look back a few years later, it looks a little bit like an older journal, which I really, really like. But another thing is, it really is comfortable for your eyes. I personally don't like blue inks because it just hurts my eyes too much while I'm writing it and as I'm reading it again, like in the future. But brownings are really comfortable for your eyes, so I find it it's like the best ink if your eyes are tired. And because I write my journals at night before bed, my eyes are always tired by then. So I really enjoy brownings because of that kind of reason. I feel it's a little bit warmer and it gives that like a warmer vibe to your journals and things like that. So that's why I do love brownings. But if you guys never tried it, try one of the brownings and see if you like it or not, because I wasn't really sure about the brownings until I tried it myself also. So I'm going to start right there because I feel like this is the dark brown ink, but like the hazelnut brown and Chikushi is almost like borderline of the dark brown to like a medium brown. Review them as it got dry. As you guys can see, here's the khaki black. It didn't dry as like dark black. Like it didn't have time to oxidize. I think you need to come back to this ink like later on, and you'll see it as more like darker than here. So we will examine this ink once we come back for like a medium brown and light brown swatches. But this one, the platinum khaki black, this is the permanent ink, as well as this one, the Tremendous document brown. As you guys can see, like compared to these two, it's very light, right? I mean, we were talking about dark browns today, so you can definitely tell it's very light brown. And I personally don't like permanent brown inks that's this light, because I usually use my permanent inks in planner. So one thing I haven't tried but that I wanted to do is mix the document brown with document black, because you can mix the Diatramentis inks together, like any of their range of the colors of the same brand ink, you can mix it. So I will mix them together, and we can kind of do the experiment later on. So yeah, but it's fairly like brown. These two are some of my favorite inks to use during the summertime. I just love that gold sparkles, and it has a little bit of that reddish brown. They're very, very similar, aren't they? One thing I do find is that this one has a finer gold shimmer compared to cocoa shimmer. This one does shimmers a little bit more. When as you guys can see, can you guys see? Like, I don't know if it shows, but the this one, the Carob de Chypre, this one has a bit of that green sheens to it. Cocoa Shimmer doesn't really have any sheens. You can definitely tell that sparkliness, like it sparkles. Whereas the Carob de Chypre, it does sparkle, but it's like more finer, so it's a little bit more elegant. Where Cocoa Shimmer is like, boom, there's like that shimmer. So I do personally like Cocoa Shimmer just because it sparkles so much. But just know that Carob de Chypre is much nicer behaving ink when it comes to shimmer inks. So the smoke screen, this is the purplish brown, like it's almost like a dark purple, but it does have a bit of that brown ink to it when you're writing it. So I added into here instead of the purple, but this is kind of like a borderline between dark purple and dark brown. The cursor, if it, as you can see, this is one of like my darkest brown color. When it dries, it's almost like black with a hint of brown. And then the Yamaguri is fairly dark. I think the cracker is, it should be a little bit more towards this way, as these two are much darker than the Nutcracker. This is the Diamine's chocolate brown, and then this is the Robert Oster's chocolate brown. The difference is you guys can see, this is like more of like a purplish brown, but it's a little bit lighter than smokescreen when you actually write it. But this one has green sheen to it because it's like a reddish, almost yeah, with a warmer yellow toned brown to it. So yeah, this is the darker version of the Nutcracker. Here are the dark browns that are a little bit leaning towards the brownish color. The toffee brown has a bit of a reddish, but it's a warm toned brown. The golden brown, this is like a lot more yellower than toffee brown, as you guys can see. This is really, really pretty, nice shading ink. Robert Oster's chocolate pudding, this is the one that has that grayish tinge to it. When you're, especially when you're writing it, it looks very interesting. It looks like a washed out gray kind of brown. So this was a little bit special in terms of the color wise. Here is the chocolate, Robert Oster's chocolate. I consider this as a yellow brown and that is a red brown. And then we have Diamine's chocolate brown and Robert Oster's Aussie brown. They're very similar in color wise, but this one, Aussie brown, doesn't really do a lot of much of a shading. The chocolate brown, this one's really interesting. Did I dilute this color by accident? Because it's actually supposed to be a little bit darker. It's actually a little bit darker than Aussie brown in my from my memory. So yeah. But anyway, we are going towards lighter color, but they're very similar in terms of the color wise. And then the last page, this is kind of like a borderline of the dark brown to medium brown. Graphon Fiber Castels has hazelnut brown. As you can see, it's like a wineish brown. And then the Iroshizuku Chukushi, this is very similar to the hazelnut brown. The only difference, it would be that this will be more of a drier ink. This will be like a wetter ink. So I like to put this one in more of like tweed speeds and things like that. The Iroshizuku in my Sailor and Pilot's Extra Fines. But I actually have two more brown shimmers, so we'll add that in here once we get to those inks. So that's why I left this blank. So we'll come back to that page. Anyway, from this collections here, my favorite and my most used ink is the Robert Oster's golden brown here, and then also this one, Chikushi. I use this quite a lot. But I think I should use more of the Yamakuri now because I can rebuy this. I don't think I can buy this Chikushi, but yeah, those two are my favorite. Okay, so those are my dark brown inks. um I'm sorry, there are like a limited brand. I haven't bought ink for a very long time. Like I know like Ferris wheel press is very popular nowadays. I have never tried those inks, you guys, because I have way too many inks. I just don't want to buy more until I use up my bottles. Honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to run out of ink for the rest of my life. That's how many I have. We will continue this series going into the medium browns and then going into the light browns, and then we'll go on to the next colors and things like that. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on my next video. Bye.